Welcome to today's Women Dialogue. My name once again is Ashua Farida. I am a pilot in Uganda and I'm also the founder and CEO of Bambino Life organization, an organization that promotes girl child education and empowerment, among other things. And one of the reasons why we are hosting today's dialogue is to talk about women in leadership. And also some of our panelists have their own challenges that they've faced along the way to their leadership positions. And we're here to discuss that with you. Sorry about that. So we are currently based in Uganda, and most of us, it's been raining the entire day. Actually, I think some of the panelists are also facing the same problem. And so the electricity has been on and off. Yeah, it still happens here. I know it's something to laugh about. But yeah, like I was saying, Bambino Life Organization is a foundation that promotes culture, education, and empowerment. We try to tackle some of the problems as to why young girls drop out of school. And one of the problems is, early pregnancies, girl child, marriages at a young age and all of that. And we try to combat that by going in rural areas and training girls in hands-on skills to empower them economically and also commercially. So today we are here with a beautiful, idol panel, and I'm going to be introducing them to you. So we have Maseka Chisinji. She's an aviation lawyer and a pilot, plus a humanitarian. We have Angela Asimwe, a lawyer, human activist, feminist, entrepreneur, and human rights defender. We also have Nakato Martha Clara, a health activist, educator, human rights defender, and she'll be telling you more about herself. Today's theme is Women in Leadership, Achieving an Equal Future in the COVID World. And we all know COVID has affected each and every one of us differently. Wherever you are from, COVID has affected you in a certain way. But today we are going to be discussing how it has affected women in leadership positions in this particular world that we're in right now. So we shall be starting with Maseka, and she'll be telling us briefly about herself. And my question to you, Maseka, is as a lady pilot, we know that aviation has been hit hard, especially in COVID, but I would like to know what has been the challenge that you faced the most. First, tell us the challenges that you faced as a woman in aviation, and then you can also tell us how the COVID world has impacted you. Thank you so much.
I hope I'm clear and audible, and I'll keep it real quick in 2 minutes. So you've already introduced me, so I will not, but my name is Maseka Kidinji, 25 years old from Kenya. And aviation before coronavirus hit was already as tough as it seems, because as women, we are the minority. So some employers and some people believe that we would not be able to compete and work at par when it comes to other men. So already if I were to apply for a job, because I'm a woman and I would possibly want to have a baby or go on maternity leave, a man would be picked over me because of they would definitely want me to still be working and not go, on leave. But now when coronavirus hit, the competition struck through the roof, because we're seeing staff being cut 70% and some companies even shut down. And before, the no's were very loud, but now with coronavirus, it's an excellent excuse for so many employers to say, no, we prefer this. We really need this specific gender over the other, to work with us because of numbers not adding up. So it has been quite challenging. Seeing a lot of people going redundant. I myself, part of group, others looking for specifically flying and keeping your license current. It has been quite the challenge, but we still press on. Thank you.
Thank you. And you know what? I do agree with you, being a lady pilot in an aviation that is mainly dominated with guys. I mean, we understand that. But now in the African setting, the women are so little compared to the guys. That's already a tough one. We already see that. And now I understand that you're also a lawyer. I mean, that is something that I feel like is also a profession that has its challenges on its own. And my question is, how do you balance the two? Because being a pilot is already something, and now you have to add lawyer onto that list, an aviation lawyer at that. So how do you balance the two at such a young age? You're just 25. How do you do that?
Thank you, Shabu, for saying that. I'm laughing because it's a question I get asked so many times, and I also wonder myself sometimes how one can be able to do it. But something that I really loved when I joined law in 2013, I was told that law is the foundation of everything. So wherever you go, people will have to have rules to govern themselves. And if you break them, there'll be consequences of the same. And since then, I knew that I could not let go of my passion still when it comes to the law, because the law is a tool. It's a tool that governs people, that protects women, that creates and it's something that I use today, still in the aviation sphere. I'm going to be very specific in speaking about Kenya because I'm Kenyan and that's where I'm based. But there's still so much regulation when it comes to, opening up opportunities and such as drones, such as microlight flying, sporting activities that are not regulated. And if left to possibly the dogmatic way that we used to think in drafting laws that were purely for men and locking out women, we're going to see a recurring trend happening in the 21st century. So currently, I dealt with aviation litigation matters, but I'm moving closer to regulation and drafting of laws, because I honestly think that we can use the law as a voice and as a tool to create an equal platform and a better aviation future, not only for Kenya, but for Africa and the world. So that is how the law fits in with the flying and balancing it out. Well, I'm glad as of now, I've been flying for a while, and I began my master's in 2019, which has allowed me to still practice and learn a lot of theory, when it comes to the law. And I'm really looking excited, especially because of coronavirus and the problems that have come out of it. I know they will need a lawyer to try and navigate and come out of this. So I'm excited that I get to use my tools in different aspects, in different scenarios, and seeing how that plays out. Thank you.
I thank you so much for that insight. And for those who are just joining us, you're very welcome to the Women's Dialogue for International Women's Day, hosted by Bambino Life Organization, an organization that promotes girl child education and empowerment. And I do agree with you, Maseka, what you're saying. I think if most of the people who are listening, if those who don't know, I feel like the aviation industry was hit the hardest when it came to the COVID situation and the COVID pandemic. And so many pilots were laid off. Actually, I was even talking to some friends and saying that every pilot moving forward needs a plan B. You cannot only have a plan A. That is what this taught us, at least in aviation, because so many people are not flying currently. All the planes are grounded, all the airlines, some of them liquidated, sorry. So you find that there is an important need of a lawyer, and not just any lawyer, an aviation lawyer. So what you're doing is really incredible. I salute you for that. I shall be coming back to you shortly. And the next person that I would like to introduce to you today, she's called Angela Asimwe. Angela Asimwe is a lawyer, and she's also a human activist. And she's also a great, great supporter and advocate for women. And I'm allowed to share this. So one of the things that happened to Angela at a young age of 15, she experienced sexual harassment, which led her down this road of, fighting for women rights, fighting for young girls, and fighting for their rights. So Angela, if you could please tell us about your story, briefly about yourself, and tell us about your story before I ask you the next question.
Thank you so much, Shava, for that kind introduction. Hope you're all able to hear me loud and clear.
Yes,
I didn't put my video because I'm in a car. I can put, and maybe you see that I'm with you. Yes.
That is okay.
Yeah. Basically, Angela, and maybe about my story. Sorry? Are you able to hear me?
Okay, the video. Yes, with the video off, we can be able to hear you. It's great. Yes.
Where should I start? When you say share your story in brief, it's really
Okay, sorry. I do know that one of the things that
got pregnant.
Okay.
I'm a mother of a teenage boy, but just not that. I also have daughters, not biological, the young women I mentor. But then I conceived at the age of 14. I got pregnant through sexual harassment. I was harassed through, and I got a child. So I gave birth by 15 years. I went through several challenges like doing unpaid care work to survive, cleaning people's toilets, doing like laundry for people because I was on the street and all I wanted was at least to get something to eat. And as a person who even slept under garbage bins in cinema halls, Vibanda, some of you know Luganda, those wooden cinema halls. And I faced a lot of challenges because there were attempts of rape, but I'm glad it didn't happen because maybe it would even have damaged my situation. But what I want you to know is as we celebrate women today, I was able to thrive, but then it didn't happen just from the blue. I was able to thrive because I had a brother that by the time I was pregnant, he was at university in his third year, and he had promised. Indeed, he fulfilled his promise. When he finished school, my son was about 1.5 years. He was able to take me back to school. And unlike many girls, drop out of school, but me as privileged, and I thank God for that, that my brother was able to take me back after a year. And that's when he asked me, what do you the rights of women and girls unknown. So all I wanted was to find ways on ensuring that girls have equal opportunities with boys, ensuring that young girls, especially young girls with a child, most of our countries, even in Kenya, Maseka can attest with me, even in Kenya, young girls, it's very, very hard for a girl to go back to school after. It's very hard for a young girl to be catered for, especially in education and also other services. So that's one of the things that pushed me to do law. And I'm glad right now I practice as a lawyer. I support other young girls and women, but also I do a lot of advocacy and media campaigns because like you said, I'm the CEO of Voice Consults. It's a legal and media consultancy firm. And what I do under that, I work with young women that I founded it with, where we carry out campaigns online on supporting and promoting women's rights, but also protecting their rights. Like recently, if you realized on media, there was, I think our first campaign was the 1 Million Women's March, the UG March, where we were demonstrating as women in Uganda, there had been mob deaths and also disappearance of people that time. So we had to do a campaign so that we demand police to make a report about where girls were disappearing from. But also the recent one that we did was the Justice for Samantha. It was basically a campaign where Samantha was the face of the campaign, but it was a campaign aimed at creating awareness about sexual harassment in the workplace and also making sure that other survivors of sexual harassment in the workplace report. So apart from
I think Angela is having a bit of network problems. Sorry about that. We shall be getting back to her shortly. And then right now I'll be
I didn't.
Angela, sorry, maybe right now because your network is a bit often on and off.
Yeah, at some
we're going
point.
to be moving on to the we're not going to be moving on to the next panelist, but I'm going to come back to you with the next question. And that question will be like,
Okay.
it is not an easy thing to come out and tell your story. I know it is you have to be very, very confident to actually come out and share with the rest of the world that, you know what, I actually experienced sexual harassment. And there could be people here who know relatives, who know friends, who know people who have gone through the same situations, and they have a hard time to share what they have gone through. And when we come back, you'll be telling us, what was it like for you, that journey towards sharing, and how would you encourage others to come out and not feel like, you know, the world is against them? How would you encourage them to share their story? So we shall be moving on to our next panelist, and she's called Nakato Martha Clara. She's a health activist, educator, human rights defender, and she'll also be telling you briefly about herself. And also one of the things is why, you know, it's very important on this panel today, because this year's theme has been choose to challenge. Now, choosing to challenge can fall under so many aspects. It could be challenging this, you know, harmful stereotypes. It could be challenging the profession inequality. It could be challenging the gender inequality, all of that. So I would like to introduce Martha Clara, and she'll just briefly introduce herself. And also, Martha, I would like to know what has been some of the challenges that you faced as a lady, as an educator, especially with the young girls, and, you know, training them a human rights defender in this COVID, you know, pandemic.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Farida, and the rest of the ladies, and everyone who has spared time to join us today. To all the women who are on here, but all around the world, a happy Women's Day. And to also, the world is female, so we need to take over. I am Martha Clara Nakato, a young woman living with HIV. I am a proud Ugandan woman, African. I educate, I train, and I also inspire communities, but the world at large. And also I thrive more to build communities that are stigma-free, where women living with HIV, other young people living with HIV really know their worth, and they are able to speak out on injustices and live a life that is full of beautiful potentials, and for them to be able to achieve their dreams. So that is me. So back to the questions, what are some of the challenges that we've really faced during this time of the COVID-19? I would strongly love to note that the COVID-19 pandemic has really imposed a lot of sexual reproductive health challenges on the lives of different women, especially the adults and girls and young women. We've seen very, very many of them get pregnant, very many of them facing gender-based violence, and then very many of them even losing hope of the world to come. But I am glad that within all those challenges, there is always opportunity, you know, in uncertainty. And I am proud to be that kind of woman that has really championed initiatives, you know, to make sure that women in different communities are able to rise up, they are able to take care of themselves, and they are able to even live a life and not let their dreams end because of the COVID-19 pandemic. From experience, last year, we managed as an organization that I work with, the Uganda Network of Young People Living with HIV, after we had really gotten the COVID-19 lockdown, we had to mobilize ourselves as the communities and ensure that we deliver drugs to different women, to different young people, to different people around the country that were really facing challenges with accessing their treatment. And also, I initiated a psychosocial support club because I realized that mental health is a silent killer, and it is really something that very many people are silent about, you know, the stigma that comes with it. And for a woman living with HIV like myself, but even for other very many people living with HIV, facing the ongoing depression, the anxiety that you even don't know, is there tomorrow? What will happen tomorrow? Will I die? With all the reports that we used to see on TV, on social media, people dying every day, having that fear, and you know that your immunity is compromised. So I realized that there is really need for mental health awareness for the people. So I began a psychosocial support club where we meet as women, but also as other young people. And I also realized that I would not be able to reach out to all people, but well, with social media, you can really reach out to very many people. And I am proud to say that a lot of people have silent killers. They are really facing a number of problems, and many of them think that they have no one who really listens to them, someone who understands them. So as I speak right now, a number of people have gotten on board and they reach out every day. They just need someone who will not judge them, someone who will comfort them. I am hopeful that next month I'll be kicking off with my campaign that I'll be launching very soon. It's more of like breaking the invisible scars, where we'll talk without fear, without judgment about mental health challenges. So Farida, I submit to you. Thank you.
Martha, before you go, I still have a question that I want to ask. And I know I may not have enough information, especially when it comes to HIV, but I do know one thing, that in Uganda, this is something that has a lot of stigma around it, to an extent that when you even come out and you say that you have it, I assume you have people in your inboxes, writing hate messages, assuming, making assumptions about your life just because you say that you're living with HIV. How has the journey been for you to come out, and was it challenging for you to come out and declare your status? And what is the stigma that around it that you've been facing? Has it discouraged you from getting work? Has it discouraged you from socializing? What has been the challenge of you coming forward and telling, sharing the world, your status?
Okay, so thank you so much, Farida. I would love to first note that in Uganda, 1.4 million people are living with HIV. And of those, only 1.2 are on treatment. The 200,000 people are not on treatment. Why? It comes back to the stigma, the stigma for even you to have an HIV test, the stigma for you to even accept and start on treatment. So people these days are really dying, not because they've been diagnosed with HIV, but because discrimination that comes with it. So from experience, as a woman, I was very unlucky that I got to know my status at the age of 14 years. My dad never disclosed to me. My siblings didn't know. And to me, it was really challenging that the stigma began with my siblings, my elders. I am the last in the family, and I am a twin. Of the 8 children, I am the only one living with HIV in the whole family. So knowing at 14, the stigma began and the discrimination began with my family, my brothers, my sisters telling me, oh, you went around messing with guys, and I had to tell them that, hey, look here, I am so pure. I've never encountered anything with a man. So as I've learned to grow up, that yes, we all have needs as a woman. When you grow up, you have dreams to have a partner. But personally, me right now, I know myself, I know my worth, I know my status. So I personally do not care. If a man comes to me, I am open to tell you, hey, look here, you're coming for this beautiful, empowered woman, or get it straight in your head. She's living with HIV. But you know what? HIV does not define me. I have a lot to offer. You want a woman who is intelligent, a woman who's going to grow you, a woman who's going to nurture family, a woman who's going to make a better wife, a woman who's going to be a better partner. Well, you have one. So if HIV is a big deal for you, find the door. You get, but not very many people have that confidence, have that esteem the way I do. It really, really takes time. Because even going back before I got to where I am, trust me, it was challenging. I am a woman who has tried to commit suicide 8 times. And I am proud and really humbled that I am not dead, because God had a plan for me. But many people have tried and they have lost their lives. So the stigma is there. Very many young women are addiction. Many of them are getting murdered by their boyfriends. We just had a scenario in Kenya about a lady who murdered the boyfriend. The boyfriend infected her with HIV. So you can see, we still have that barrier of, the right access to the right information for people to know that a person living with HIV is someone beautiful, is someone intelligent, is someone who you cannot tell by just looking at them. It's about you having a test and knowing that this person is living with HIV. So my biggest message to the world would simply be around us educating ourselves, and importantly for people living with HIV, to educate the people around us, because even if people stigmatize you, they discriminate you because of your status, you have a role to play, and you educate them. Currently, I'm in a relationship with a gentleman who is HIV negative. And every time I tell people, they're like, oh, how did you do it? How did you convince him? And I'm like, hey, look here. For love is generous, you know, love knows nothing. Love can break chains. Someone will only appreciate you for who you are. And when they know that HIV is a manageable disease, you can have children who are HIV negative. You can still have your partner and you're in a discordant relationship. He's negative and you're positive and you're happy. But what really matters is about you being honest. You need to be honest to yourself, be honest to your partner, and learn to speak out. Because if you're at an age where you know you're running and you want to get married, you need a partner. As a woman living with HIV, you just need to break the cycle and say, hey, look here, this is who I am. HIV is not going to go away. I need to just live in my truth. I need to be true to myself and to the people around me. And to me, I think that is the way you unleash your fullest self-actualize or under satisfaction, just being you and living your truth. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Clara. That is really inspirational, honestly. And I do agree with you. This is something that, you know, not everyone can talk about. It must have taken, and I'm so sorry to hear about, you know, the times that you tried to commit suicide. I know that could have been hard for you, and to come out, you know, well and live and, you know, beautiful. And what most people don't know is that actually, if you follow the right procedures, people with HIV can even live longer than people who do not have, because you don't know when the car is going to hit you, you don't know when you're going to face death. It's unpredictable, unfortunately. But if you are following the right methods, you could live and you could have a family and you could definitely be happy. And as we know, this year's theme is choosing to challenge. So we choose to challenge the stereotypes around HIV. We choose to challenge the stigma around HIV. We are choosing to challenge all these things that have been placed in front of us. To see such a young lady, you know, fighting and coming out and, you know, breaking all these barriers, emotional and, you know, mental barriers, and declaring herself. Because if you come from Uganda, you know it is not easy. Ugandans will, you know, I don't even know. It's not an easy journey, but you are truly, truly brave to be able to do that. And then we are going to go back to Maseka, and your story has also really been inspiring, a pilot. And one of the things that really fascinates me about your story is, you know, we reached out together and we've been talking. She's a pilot, I'm a pilot, and she flies a different kind of aircraft that I think it's not really new in, I think, Africa. So Maseka, could you please tell us about that? I really love the plane she flies, because when I saw it, I was like, okay, if I'm in this particular plane, I'm just going to be staying outside. It's really, really fascinating. So could you please tell us briefly about your love of flying, and how does it make you feel to fly? Because I know the aircraft that you fly, unfortunately, we didn't put it up there. I know the aircraft that you fly. How does it feel when you're up there, you know, looking at the water, looking at all of this? What kind of freedom does it give you, Maseka?
Thank you so much, Farida. Wow, I'll start with saying what I am flying currently is called a micro lightweight shift aircraft. So if you've never heard of it before, picture a motorcycle in the sky.
Right?
That is
why I like
it. Yes, it's the best description of what I'm currently flying, where there's an engine on my back, and there's a kite at the top of me, and no doors, no cabin, no nothing of you, and it's open. So in light and in close relation to how it's structured, there's so much freedom. There's freedom of death, but there's freedom of tackling. Yes, of tackling your fears. I think it just has to go in line with my passion for flying, and that's part of my personal inspiration to myself, and even when I speak with others and share my story, where sometimes we discouraged when our road is not straight. So example now for me, for the people not in the aviation industry, you do your first license, and if you have money from beginning to end, within 2 years, you should be finished with everything until the air transport pilot license, ATPL. But for somebody in my position and my background, it has taken so many years that we're still on trying to finish your flight school. But because the road has been very windy, it has made me fall upon a microlight that I would have never known existed if I didn't have to take the longer road to get to my dream. So when I was faced with flying this aircraft, I had two questions. I like flying, but this is not the straight road. This is a windy road that is going to take some time. But because I still held on to my passion, I said I can live out my passion for flying, for freedom. And the greatest thing that I enjoy so much about flying is when you're up there, especially with the microlight, there are no doors. You unbuckle your seatbelt and you're down, basically. But it is so beautiful. And when you look at life from the aerial view, there is no Kenya and Uganda. We are just one country. It is just nature. It is just people working together in harmony. And that honestly reminds me that I can fight my own personal mental barriers and battles. I can overcome this emotional boundary if there's so much beauty in all that is around me in God's creation. There's beauty in me, and being up there reminds me every single day of that moment. So I will admit, sometimes I do get scared. Sometimes I'm like, okay, we are not coming down today with just a seatbelt holding me up in the sky. But it truly reminds me I'm alive. And because I'm alive, I can do anything I put my mind to. Sometimes it will be hard. Sometimes it will not be so hard. But it's really what I think that part of what I'm here to do. Yes.
That is really, what he's saying is really true. Aviation is really actually very expensive, and most people don't know that. And the struggle is real. The struggle is real because you find people working to get those licenses. From one license, you try to work to get the other, then you've not been flying for some time. And then I'm also reminded that every single day you enter that aircraft, it's your life. It may seem as simple as everything, but most of the aircraft, accidents that happen, it's very rare to find that someone walks away alive. And usually it's the pilots, who end up with their lives gone. It's very rare to find someone coming out alive of that. So it's already a risky profession as it is. And then you also find there is also this other challenging bit of being a lady in that aviation sector. And then you're going to have people thinking that maybe you're being favored, or the instructors are going easy on you because you're a woman. And then when it comes on the ridiculous level, it will be like you're sleeping with maybe instructors to get that favor. So it's always going to be it being attributed to some other things. And unfortunately, this is not only happening in Africa, this is happening internationally for all the ladies in aviation. It took about 10 years for a woman to sit in a plane after the first guy flew it. I don't even want to know what happened for her, but it has been such a long journey for women to be able to reach this place and say that, I can actually fly a plane too. I can defy the odds. And it's not something that is easy, and it takes a lot of mental strength, because to be surrounded by colleagues who do not think that you are as smart as them, or you understand just as much as they understand, and just seeing you as a weaker time. And most of the time, to find so many ladies, besides flying, they're trying so hard to also prove that they deserve to be there. So that is already too much. It's like you're doing too much. And then a guy doesn't have to do anything. He just has to show up and fly. And that's it. No one cares. No one does. As long as he shows up, everyone just knows he's great. But then for a lady, you have to show up. You have to show that, I deserve to be here just like the rest of you. So I understand where you're coming from. I do, however, would not want to fly the plane that you're flying, because I would be so scared. Like if I could feel the wind on my face, I'll be like, no, I'm not doing that. If the seatbelt does anything and then I'm falling out, I need some security. I need some security to know that everything around me is secure. So I feel like what you're doing, not everyone can do that. That is really amazing. But if I do get a chance, I'll be willing to fly that. And then, so one of the other things that I also wanted to ask you, I do know from our interactions that you said that you went through homeschooling for all your childhood. And I would like to know, how did that impact you when you came out and you started interacting with these other, kids that went to, normal school, private, public school, and what brought you on about the, the homeschooling, and how did it shape you into the woman that you are now?
Oh, awesome. Well, usually I do not take credit for this. I give it all to my mother because living in Kenya and in the year 2000, going towards 2010, deciding to homeschooling your children there was so much stigma around it. Don't you have money? You're ruining your children's future. But she decided, no, I want to take that leap and homeschool my children. And I really enjoyed it because I literally got to do every single thing I came up with. And my mother let me explore every idea. And I think that even fits into when I introduce myself, I do flying and law. They're like, how can you do that? I'm like, because as a child, I told my mom I want to draw. So she bought me a drawing book. I told her I want to learn piano and guitar simultaneously. She got me a guitar. She put me in piano lessons. I was like, no, actually, I want to do tennis and swimming. She put me in all the sports. So there was never any limit as to what I wanted to do and the talents that I had in me. So I really think from a very early age that was nurtured um, in me, and it really helped me develop to decide right now, confident enough to be like, I want to do this, go after it. And sometimes you go after it and you fail, and you're like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore, and I can do something else. The challenge of being a homeschooler, I think right now in the COVID world, everybody's forced to homeschool. So it seems like a new thing that, oh, I'm homeschooling my children. It's so challenging. But then again, back in the day, it was something very strange and new. And when I actually got to be in school, it was when I joined university, where there were basically, it was a small university at the time, where 1,000 students, but it was extremely overwhelming because I was like, who are all these people? I mean, I'm just used to maybe my siblings and going to other homeschoolers and learning together, but there were so many different characters. And then maybe possibly bullying that I'd have learned at primary, I was experiencing at the university level. But I still think that, God had a protecting hand over me, that I got some really good friends to walk with, to explain to me, okay, this is how it is. This is how people are. This is how people behave. And the social aspect that I didn't necessarily get being a homeschooler, I was able to develop through my entire university diplomacy, and even right now, master's level. I'm still developing my skills, my social skills, but I still think because I was a homeschooler, I find it a bit more easy to just break cultural assumptions. Where, example, Farida, I can contact you, you're in Uganda, and be interested in what you're doing, come and work with you. But if I maybe perhaps went through a schooling system, I would say, no, 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 I don't know who she is. What will she think of me? Is this appropriate? Is this right? But then because of how I have grown up, I just, again, you just decide, you reach out. The worst somebody can say is no. And through that, my social skills have been formed, until this day. So I personally, when I eventually get to have children, I will definitely homeschool them. But then, of course, eventually, I'd love for them to go to school to gain the social strengths behind it. But I really count that as one of the blessings that I got, that my talents were able to be seen as a small child and nurtured, until now. So that's how my homeschooling history has been.
Thank you so much, Maseka. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate that. And we're going to go to our next, panelist, Angela. We left you with a question earlier on when your network was a bit off. You did say that you came out at a young age and you experienced sexual violence, which is truly, truly sad. And my question to you was, how was it? Was it challenging for you to come forward and actually share your story? Did it impact the people in your lives, like your friends? Has it impacted your relationships? Has it impacted the way people see you when you came out and, decided to share your story? Because we're trying to see around that people who are experiencing this, when they come out, what are they going to face? What are some of the challenges that they're going to face, that you faced as you when you came out and you shared this with the world? Angela. Angela? I think maybe she's having a bit of a hard time. So Nakato, if you're still with us, I would like to ask you one of the things. What do you think some of the challenges that have affected, the young people living with HIV in the COVID situation? Has it amplified? Because I do know if people are in quarantine, has it amplified? Have more people gotten it? Have less people gotten the medicine that they're supposed to be getting? How has COVID affected people living with HIV, especially the ladies?
Thank you, Farida. It's also beautiful to listen in from a lot of ladies. I'm now learning about driving, like flying the plane. So how has COVID really impacted women living with HIV? I would love to note that last year, a number of people living, I will not only speak about women living with HIV, but I will highlight one common thing that very many people living with HIV missed out on taking their drugs because of the anxiety issues, because of even the imposed lockdown. People missed to fetch their drugs. So a number of them missed their treatments. And we all know that missing a pill a day or even missing your pills for a given time of time, it really affects your health, and it also leads to drug resistance, where the drugs that you're supposed to take will not effectively work. But to still further highlight that for women, because women are a unique but also a sensitive group of people, you realize that we carried most of the burden, staying at home, cooking for the kids, taking care of your husband, and even for very many who were incorporated in some facilities or even some centers, or were working as volunteers. Many people lost their jobs. So just imagine losing your job and you have to sit home. You've been a teacher, you find comfort with being around students, and here you are locked in your house for almost 8 months. There is a way it makes you. There is a way it made very many living with the child. The fact that you have a compromised immunity, the fear that comes with it, where we even started asking questions. So what are the probabilities of a person living with HIV getting COVID-19? Or what about a person with tuberculosis? Stuff like that. The fact that our immunities are compromised, when all these health challenges come on board, there is always that fear of unknown, the fears of the uncertainty. But I am proud to say that a number of people living with HIV, a number of women living with HIV, we did not give up on each other's, as sisters. Where you go, I succeed by lifting you, holding your arm and telling you everything will be okay. So we really managed to support each other to live through the uncertain moment. So to me, I am really proud that a number of us are still alive. The people that we thought would lose them, the people who had really lost it all, living hopeful life and looking forward to thriving and even living betterly. And all glory and honor to the Almighty. Thank you, Farida.
And I'm going to ask you another question
Yes,
because
Farida,
this is what has brought us here today. So, Asima, let me finish up with with Nakato, then I can get back to you. Sorry. So, Martha, I wanted to ask you. So, with everything that has happened during COVID, as a leader, as a lady in a leadership position, how are you going to adapt to the post-COVID world? Because we know COVID has forced us to change our ways, though we used to do things, we have changed it entirely. So how have you coped and how are you adapting with the new changes to benefit you in the future as a lady in leadership? Martha.
So one thing that I would strongly highlight is I have a mentor who he has always told me this thing that most things people worry about never happen. And change is something that is inevitable. Whether you like it or you don't want, change will change you. So you really have to learn how to live within that change and live with change. So for women to live through this moment of COVID is one, we really need to keep strong, keep focused, and realize that hard times always persist. Hard times will always come. There are those moments where you have to kick, you have to push, pull, you have to pass through the storms. But of course, the resiliency, knowing that tough times never last. But if you're tough enough, if you toughen up, you can live through the moment. So for women around this time of the post-COVID time, we really have to toughen up a little, and we really have to be tough enough to also understand that tough times never last, but tough people do. Two, I would strongly recommend women to not back down, for us to believe in ourselves, to know that we can do anything beautiful we've always loved to do, and we are the solutions to that change. Because trust me, the world is female. The world is female. Without women, we would not have a nation, because women build a nation. So if we lose out now, because, of all these uncertainties, and we are not ready to cope up with the change, what kind of nation are we going to build? So for the women on this panel, and for all the women who are listening in there, you are the change, you are the new nation, you have the power. So I really want all of us to age gracefully, to thrive gracefully still, and then live each day and every moment like it's your last breath. And don't forget to leave that legacy behind of the world that you need to see. Thank you.
And the last question for you, what is your advice to ladies out there living with HIV who are afraid to disclose their statuses, who are afraid that they will not be able to get into relationships? What is your advice there to them? And also those who feel guilty because maybe they did, because I know there are those who are born with it, which is understandable, but then you may find that also at the same time there are those who maybe got it sexually, which is still also understandable, by the way, because there is nothing wrong with that. You don't go and say that I'm going to have sex and I intend to get HIV. It does happen and you get it. So how do you talk to them to look past the guilt and past the suicidal moments of I don't deserve to live, I don't deserve to be here? What is your advice to young girls out there living with HIV? And yes, what is your advice to them?
My biggest advice for all women living with HIV is simple. It doesn't matter how you got infected with HIV. That doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter. What really matters is how you're going to live with HIV and how you're going to age and even build a nation that you want. So I'll strongly advise all women to be you, live in your truth. You're living with HIV. That is not going to change. Love you. Take time to invest in your inner happiness. Take time to love you, and really take time to understand your worth. Because if you understand your worth, trust me, if all these things that you're really scared about, they will not matter, because you know your worth. But if you've not taken time to really understand your worth, all these things will matter. So don't lose focus. Just love you and be you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Martha. Thank you so much. And Angela, we are coming back to you. Can you hear me, Angela?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Sorry, last time my mic failed.
It is well.
Because of network.
Well. So Angela,
okay.
It is well. I had left you with a question of coming out at a young age, actually, or when did you come out, or when you came out to declare to the world and to share your story that, I experienced sexual violence at such a young age and I was a teenage mother. Did it affect the people around you? Did it affect your relationships and the way people see you? Because we do know that there are people who have experienced this and they're afraid to come forward and share their stories because they're worried they're going to be looked at in a way of you are asking for it, that kind of stereotype where, people blame the victim. So how was it for you? Was it challenging? I know it was, but how did it go for you to come out and share the story? How did it empower you to actually, come out? And what would be your advice to those who would want to share their story with the world? What are the challenges they should expect when they do share their story?
Okay, thank you so much, Ashava. I would start with, that's a nice question. I would start with your first question before I went off. You're asking me more on how did I embrace the consequences? How did I embrace sexual harassment? One of the things I can tell you is I wasn't able to embrace sexual harassment because sexual harassment is mainly something to do with issues that affect us, especially to do with the types of sexual harassment. If as defiled, the sexual harassment affected me, but then it was more of the consequences that I was able to embrace. For instance, having a
Yes.
child and knowing that I'm a mother, it gives me so much joy. Also, in regards to what you're talking about, how did it affect me? It affected me in a way that one thing people should know is that every time you report issues of sexual harassment, there are consequences, but it's not because people don't want to understand you, but it's because of our negative cultural norms. In regards to our negative cultural norms, people take girls that get pregnant before the age of 18 as spoiled brats. People take them as girls that are immoral. I remember one time one of my family members even asked, so does it mean that the sexual harassment, were you raped, were you defiled, or you're the one that gave in? And then another one was asking me about prostitution, where you are selling yourself, your body, and I'm like, really? So one of the things we have to know is that the consequences are really tough also, but then it's mainly the stigma and discrimination, whereby your family gives up on you and they're like, you know what, we can't deal with this one. Because I ended up on the streets because my family couldn't have me as a total orphan, but no one was even willing to have me in their home by that time. So I had to hustle on the streets. So it's not easy, but I'm happy to inform you that that was then. I'm happy that now the environment changed. It's very easy for young women to speak up against sexual harassment. By then, we didn't even have shelters. I'm a board chair of one of the NGOs that has a gender-based violence shelter for sexual harassment survivors who are teenage girls. It's the remnant generation, but by that time it was not there. That's why even it's weird that even government, at the rate where we have 25% of girls getting pregnant, that was in 2016. Now imagine how many girls got pregnant during COVID. They must be more than 25%. Yesterday I was speaking to one of the experts and she was telling me that the survey that they're carrying out shows over 50% of the girls have gotten pregnant before the age of 18 during COVID. So it's really challenging. But one thing I should advise people is that when you don't speak out, then you don't heal. One of the things that took me through healing was the kind of friends I have. I realized that yes, I have issues with family and also people taking me for who I am as a young mother. But then I was luckily I got people who support the work I do and also sisterhood. Most of the times we just need someone to believe in you. We just need someone to tell you it is okay, someone to tell you you're worthy of love, of kindness. So having the sisterhood and people around me, my mentors, my daughters, my friends, and also looking at my son gave me also energy, because I knew that if I don't share the story, then it will be very hard for him to understand that a young girl can get pregnant. I remember the first charity I carried out, which was in 2015, and I did that charity at the Remnant Generation still, and I took him with me. I only wanted to show him that yes, because at the Remnant Generation we have girls starting from 9 years who get pregnant. Imagine, and most of them are incest cases. So I wanted him to understand.
Um, Sorry, I think Angela is having some problems with her network. And Maseka, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hello, you can hear me. Okay, great. So I would like to ask you for your last words towards any other girls out there who would want to pursue their dreams in aviation or being a lawyer and just putting themselves out there. What would be your last words to them, your advice to these girls?
Thank you, Farida. I think for me, one of the principles that I've lived with for the longest of time that has sustained me until now is that fear is stupid and so are regrets. And that's by Marilyn Monroe. Because I realized a lot of the things that stop us from going after our dreams is fear. I know most people will say the answer to that is money, but there's always money, there are always resources, but it's fear of where will I get the money from? How will I start? Who do I talk to? How will it plan out? And all those questions that run through your mind as to whatever you want to do, it's fear. So when you set aside that fear and you're like, okay, this fear is stupid, or I can acknowledge this fear, feel it, and still do it, you will now go after what you want to do and live your dreams. So I will say, do it all, and nobody is going to stop you. It's not going to be easy. It's not easy trying my best to build and go after this career that I am striving to build. But if I can do it, a woman, a young woman, any woman, older or younger, can be able to do the same. So dream big and go after it. That's it.
Sorry about that. My internet had gotten me off. So sorry about that. The network, not internet, the network connection got me off. So anyway, the last thing I would like to tell young people out there is
before
that
you give us before Angela, before you give us the last thing, I did listen to the story that
not
you're
the
sharing,
last
and that
thing,
is
sorry.
no, so I did listen to the story that you're sharing, and I think that is really brave of you, and that is really, really amazing what you've gone through. But beyond that, you're being able to advocate for women who are going through those particular problems and all of that. And one of the questions that I want to ask you, I know that you're sitting in a big leadership position, from sitting on boards to being a lawyer to being, you're in so many leadership positions. What are some of the challenges that you faced in this COVID situation? Because that is the thing that we are on today. What are some of the challenges that you faced as a leader in all these organizations in this COVID? How has it limited you, and how has it stopped you from doing what you want to do? So yeah.
Thank you so
How's
much.
COVID affected you?
Yes, thank you so much for that. One of the things I would like you to know is that COVID affected every woman. But then me personally, one of the things that affected me the more was to do with the work I do, especially the legal consultancy. During COVID, especially the time of lockdown, wasn't able to represent most of my clients who are women and girls that can't even afford a lawyer. Because you realize at first they said that lawyers are not essential workers. You remember that time where only the doctors and nurses were the only ones that were able to go and work in Uganda. So the rest of us, even who had cases that were emergency, like issues to do with land, issues to do with sexual harassment, people were not helped. Many people were not represented by me because of that. But I'm glad later they lifted the lockdown. However, apart from that, the other issue is to do with the work I do on online, because I do media consultancy work still. But then I also provide like spearhead campaigns online. So in regards to online, I think the only time I was affected was the time of elections. Yes, there was COVID, but then there was a total shutdown. So we reached a time and we were not able to even operate. But also the other challenge I faced was to do with accessing the organizations I work with. Like one of them is in Kaval. It's a home that has 213 orphans. And it's an organization, Gracefield Sanctuary, that I support in making sure that we fundraise and also have funds to take care of those young orphan girls. But then I wasn't even able to get there to know how are they doing. So I was only relying on information as being given. Even at the Remnant Generation, I remember there was a time, because I go there once in a week, there was a time I couldn't even go there because there are times you go to places and you feel you've been exposed. And now you imagine going to a teenage mother's home. Wouldn't you expose many pregnant mothers? So it became very complicated. Maybe the other thing, just like the other women in Uganda who are affected in businesses, I told you I do entrepreneurship. I have a group of 12 women, 12 groups of women that I trained under FIDA Uganda in women economic empowerment, and they grow passion fruits in Kasese, and then in Soro they grow Irish. So during COVID, especially the lockdown, we were not able to even get services, get the goods from them to sell in Kampala, because we sell them online. Like we just put a poster and it does magic online and we're able to sell. So most of those women, even I remember the time when we got the business back, most of them were telling us they were in debt. They didn't have where to sell their goods. And the people that were able and affording to buy their goods would buy like at a very low rate, like a sack which is 250, someone would offer you 50,000 and you'd make losses. So I think those are some of the challenges. But then the other challenge I faced as a mother, I told you I'm a mother. Now my son is in senior one and he made 13 years. So as a mother, the other challenge I faced was the closure of school. My son is in boarding. So just like
Okay, so I think that has gone off again, the network problem on
during this COVID. One of the things, when you have a child at home, it's more, you know. Yes, so you have to work from home. The boy is asking you, Mommy, data is done. Mommy, this, I want that. So it became very, very challenging, but also unpaid care work increased because you have the needs of the child at home. When he's at school, you visit him once in a while, like once every 2 months, every month. But now he's around and there's a lot to do to ensure that he still studies, because we're also trying the homeschooling. I was telling people yesterday that most of the mothers in Uganda became teachers during COVID because you have to figure out a way, or else your children will forget all these things. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Angela. If there is anyone listening in, if you have any questions for our panelists, you can type them in the chat section and we shall be able to address it to them. Or even you could ask them on their own social media platforms, which we'll be putting on our social media platforms today. And we shall also be sharing their biographies so that you can see what is happening for them. I do know that COVID especially affects women when it comes to domestic violence and sexual violence, because people are within closed space with their suppressors most of the times and they cannot report these cases. So we do have that problem. So I do understand that could have increased. And now that we're entering the post-COVID world, we have to learn to adapt. So whereby we were going into places face to face, now we have to learn to incorporate technology within what we're supposed to do. So with our last words, Angela, if you have any advice that you'd like to give to the young girls out there, would love to hear it from you. Any advice, any words of encouragement to them, you could give it to them.
Thank you so much, Ashaba, once again. The advice I would like to give to the young girls is first, believe in yourself. Work on your self-confidence. And all the young women you've seen today who are doing amazing work, even today on this, the event, the pilots, the lawyers, the sexual and reproductive health and rights advocates, they all had to first build their confidence. Work on your confidence, but it all starts with believing in yourself. Because if you don't believe in yourself, it becomes very hard for other people to believe in you. Secondly, the survivors of sexual harassment. I know during COVID it increased a lot. Please, we request you to kindly report, speak up, because when you don't break the silence, then you don't heal. Me personally, I was able to heal because I broke the silence. I remember when I just started sharing my story, it was really complicated because I would cry. For like the first year, I started speaking up. Every time I would remember something new, but then I would be healing. Also, as young women, I request that you get mentorship because it's very, very important. And in mentorship, we should remember that it is a two-way street. When you have a mentor, please also contribute something, but also mentor other young women. Right now, I have over 12 mentors in different fields, but then I also mentor over 12 young women intentionally, and then other young girls in entities that I work with. I do role modeling and also advise and talk to them every now and then so that they get inspired. So break the silence, but also in regards to what COVID affected us economically, I request and also urge all the young women that are with us today, even the men, I saw some men on the call. So I urge you to please adjust to the new normal. As I told you, yes, I'm a lawyer, but I don't only do legal work. I have a side business. I do entrepreneurship work. I have other things. I do media work. So the new normal has taught us that you can't rely on just one job. You saw the lawyer who is also a pilot, and I'm sure she also does other advocacy. You can see Ashaba, who is a pilot, but she does a lot of advocacy around empowering young girls. So don't have only one job. Please look for side businesses. If I was able to do unpaid care work at 14, that's when I realized that there's no job that is really bad. As long as you can earn a living, minimum wage, you can be able to survive. So please work, 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 and work. And remember that money is a source of power. But also the last message I give to you is get informed. Most of the times we don't do great work because we are not informed. Read, research, and also know that information is power. Thank you so much for that. And
Thank
once
you so
again,
much,
happy
Angela.
Women's Day.
Thank you
to
so
all
much,
of
Angela.
you.
Happy Women's Day. Thank you so much for your time. And we are going to finalize with Maseka. I would like to ask you, what now from here? What do you see yourself? Where do you see yourself going? What next aircraft would you want to fly? And yes, Maseka.
Yes, thank you so much, Farida. Wow. For me, my biggest dream is to get into humanitarian and conservation flying. I've already been blessed enough in order to start conservation flying, but the end goal is definitely humanitarian. As Angela stated, I believe any woman who builds herself up, that's a tool to speak out and get into advocacy. So through humanitarian flights, I want to get into direct service to girls, not only in Kenya, Eastern Africa, but then build slowly now to all of Africa. But I definitely want to begin in Kenya and then Eastern Africa. And the aircraft I see myself flying to be a voice to girls, deliver aid, medicine, and food has to be the Dash 8 Q400. No, Caravan is definitely there, but it's a 14-seater. The Dash 8
No, but Maseka, if you're talking about doing humanitarian work, I mean, because I know the Dash needs a runway, and most of these places for humanitarian causes, especially if you look at the World Food Program and the UN, you know, if you're going into these remote areas, the best aircraft that you're going to use is Caravan for bush flying and all of that. I think on the humanitarian scale of things, that is what I think. I know it's rough, but that is what I see happening.
Yeah, no, but actually the UN based World Food Program, their offices here in Nairobi, Kenya, they use the Dash 8 Q400 to deliver aid into South Sudan and parts of Congo, and also have the Caravan. So both fleets are very usable in order to.
But you prefer the Dash, okay?
Exactly.
You prefer the comfort over the roughness of the Caravan.
Exactly. I'm already not in comfort. I think I'm going to a little bit of comfort before coming back, but Caravan is still definitely part of the list. But
oh my God, I forgot to ask something. What happens when it rains when you're flying that light aircraft?
I do not fly it when it rains. It's very painful. It's like stones being
I'm
thrown
saying,
over your
it's
body.
unpredictable. Like if you're already up there and then it starts raining, what do you do? Do you look for the nearest place to land, or do you brave the rain?
No, exactly. The times that we've been caught in the rain here, we simply avoid the rain and then land as soon as possible because it's extremely, extremely painful. But like I said, it's a good tool for conservation flying because of how open it is. But definitely the larger fleet would be, you know, preferable to cross borders and deliver food, deliver books, you know, and talk to young girls and assist them in any way that they possibly can. So yeah, that's how it is with the microlight, and that's my dream: humanitarian and conservation flying.
Thank you so much, and I wish you the very best on that journey.
Thank
and
you.
maybe one of these days, maybe one of these days I may come and I take you up on the light aircraft and try my skills on it, if possible. Happy Women's Day to you, to everyone. We want to wish you a happy Women's Day to you, and thank you so much for joining us in today's Women's Dialogue. We had a short time, and that is how we are going to keep it. We shall be posting this video on our social media platforms, on our YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you so much for everyone who has joined us today. Thank you so much for everyone who has supported us. We shall also be posting the biographies of these lovely ladies on our social media platforms so that you can get to know more about them. And then we shall also be posting their social media handles. I'm checking. I don't think there is any questions for you ladies. I think the questions will come in later, and maybe people text you directly. Thank you so much, everyone who has attended today. Thank you so much for supporting the cause. We love you. Happy Women's Day to all of you, and bye.
Happy Women's Day. Bye.
Happy Women's Day. Bye.
Bye.